The scientific cheat code style. What if the hardest part of learning a language was not the study, but the sleep? What if we could bypass traditional rote memorization by using binaural frequencies to synchronize the brainwaves for maximum retention? Tonight, you will not just rest, you will embed sophisticated linguistic patterns into your subconscious mind while you dream. I want to tell you a story today. It is a story about sleep. Not just any sleep, but sleep that helps you learn English. Many people think language learning only happens when the eyes are open and the mind is working hard. They feel tired. They feel frustrated when they forget. But I learned something important. I learned that the problem is not only in our study methods. The problem is also in how we use the night. The brain can continue learning while we rest. Let me start from the beginning. When I was young, I studied English in school and at home with great effort. My teachers gave us long lists of words. I repeated every word many times. I wrote sentences again and again. I listened to recordings until late at night. I slept only a few hours because I wanted more time to study. I thought more hours always meant more progress. I felt busy. I felt disciplined. I was happy when I finished a long study session. I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was good at learning English. But then something happened. I noticed that many words I learned on Monday were already weak by Wednesday. I felt confused. I thought maybe my memory was bad. Maybe I needed to study even more. But that was not the true problem. Years passed. I kept studying. I learned more words. I learned more grammar. I did more exercises. But the forgetting continued. Real conversations still felt difficult. New vocabulary still disappeared too quickly. I started to feel that something was missing. Then I met an old researcher. She was a scientist who had spent many years studying the brain and sleep. She worked with people who wanted to improve memory and learning. She understood how the brain works during the day and during the night. I asked her the secret. She smiled gently and told me something that changed my life forever. She said, "Learning is not only about the day, learning is also about the night. The brain does some of its most important work while you sleep." She said, "Our brain is like a smart machine. During the day, it collects information. At night, it organizes that information. It strengthens what is useful. It removes what is not needed. But we need to help it correctly. Most people only train the waking brain. They try to force more study into every hour. They try to catch every single word with hard effort. But this is incomplete. We must also train the sleeping brain. We must give it the right material and the right conditions. I did not understand at first, so she gave me a clear example. She said, "Imagine you are planting a garden. During the day you put seeds into the soil. That is important. But if you keep digging the soil every night, the roots cannot grow. The plants stay weak. Language learning is the same. Study during the day is the planting. Sleep is the growing. Without good sleep, the roots of new words stay shallow. The vocabulary does not become strong. This idea was completely new to me. In school and in my personal study, we only focused on waking effort. We repeated words, we did exercises, we tested ourselves. We almost never thought about what happened after we closed our eyes. This habit was deep in my mind, but this habit was incomplete for real long-term learning. When we ignore sleep, the brain cannot finish its work. Short-term vocabulary stays short-term. Patterns do not become automatic. The brain works too hard during the day and receives no proper recovery at night. Let me explain the science the way she explained it to me, slowly and clearly. During the day, a part of the brain called the hippocampus acts like a temporary notebook. It holds new words, new phrases, and new patterns for a short time. This notebook is useful, but it is limited. It cannot keep everything forever. At night, especially during deep sleep and during the REM cycle, the brain begins a quiet process called memory consolidation. The hippocampus reviews the new material. It strengthens the important connections. It moves the useful vocabulary into long-term storage in other areas of the brain. This happens without any conscious effort. You do not need to study while sleeping. The brain does the work by itself when the conditions are right. She told me that the REM cycle is especially interesting for language. During REM sleep, the brain processes patterns, connects ideas, and improves the natural feeling of language. It does this without conscious effort. If the brain has received clear linguistic patterns before sleep, it can replay and strengthen those patterns during REM. This is one important reason why good sleep helps fluency. The brain is not resting completely. It is working in a different and powerful way. But she said there is a way to support this process even more. She introduced me to binaural audio. She explained it simply. When each ear hears a slightly different soft frequency, the brain creates a third gentle beat inside the mind. This is called a binaural beat. Certain binaural frequencies can help the brain move into calm and restorative states more easily. Some frequencies support deep sleep. Some support the stages where memory becomes stronger. When these soft frequencies are layered underneath a slow, rhythmic, gentle story, the brain can stay relaxed while still receiving clear language patterns. This idea was powerful for me. I realized I needed to change my approach. I did not need only more waking study. I needed better night support. I needed to embed useful vocabulary into a rhythmic, slow-paced narrative designed for the subconscious mind. I needed to layer binaural frequencies beneath gentle storytelling so that brainwaves could synchronize for better memory consolidation. This immersive approach allows linguistic patterns to take root more effortlessly during the restorative stages of deep, overnight sleep. I started practicing the method she taught me. First, during the day, I chose a small number of useful phrases. I learned them actively. I understood the meaning. I used them in simple sentences. I did not take too many. Quality was more important than quantity. I read them in groups. I listened to them in slow, clear sentences. I made sure the meaning was clear in my mind. Then, in the evening, about 30 to 40 minutes before sleep, I prepared a special audio. The audio contained a slow, warm story that used the same phrases again and again in natural ways. Under the story, there were soft binaural frequencies. I made the room dark and quiet. I put on comfortable headphones. I lay down. I listened with soft attention. I did not force concentration. I allowed sleep to come naturally while the gentle language and the frequencies continued. At first, it felt unusual. My old habit was to study until I was completely tired. Now I was stopping earlier and giving the night a clear role. After some nights, I began to notice small changes. Some phrases felt clearer the next morning. Some patterns returned more easily during the day. It was not a sudden miracle, but it was steady and quiet progress. My brain was receiving clean patterns during the day and then strengthening them during the night.
The old researcher had more to teach me. She said the sleeping brain does not like force or excitement. It likes repetition, rhythm, safety, and calm meaning. A slow story creates safety. Soft binaural frequencies help the brain enter deeper rest. Together, they open a quiet door. Through that door, linguistic patterns can enter more deeply. This is why the combination of gentle storytelling and binaural audio is effective. She also explained why many people fail with night audio. They play loud music, they play fast or exciting content, they try to stay awake and force learning. These actions work against the process. The brain needs calm. The goal is not to study while sleeping. The goal is to fall asleep naturally while clean patterns are present, so that consolidation can happen more effectively during deep sleep and the REM cycle. I followed her advice carefully. I protected my sleep. I kept a regular sleep time. I made the room as dark as possible. I avoided heavy screens late at night. Sleep became part of my language plan, not something separate. After several weeks, the change became clearer. Vocabulary stayed with me longer. Listening felt a little lighter. Speaking some patterns felt more natural. I was no longer only studying English during the day. I was also sleeping for English at night. Now let me tell you the big secret she shared at the end. The secret to stronger long-term fluency is not only in harder waking study. The secret is also in smarter rest. When you listen and study during the day, you are collecting material. When you sleep with the right support, you are allowing the brain to organize and strengthen that material. The brain is constantly working. During the day, it collects. During the night, it organizes, strengthens, and stores. When the daytime material is clear and the nighttime conditions are calm, something powerful happens. Short-term vocabulary moves more easily into long-term fluency. Patterns take root more deeply. Think about it this way. When you first learn to drive, everything feels fast and difficult. After much practice and good rest, the same actions feel more automatic. The brain has consolidated the patterns. Language is similar. Daytime practice plants the patterns. Nighttime consolidation helps them become more automatic. Binaural-supported slow storytelling is one way to give the brain cleaner material and calmer conditions for that night work. I practiced this combined method for several months. The change was quiet but real. I forgot less. I recalled more easily. I felt less pressure during the day because I knew the night was also working for me. Movies and conversations still required practice, of course, but the foundation felt stronger. I was not struggling against forgetting as much as before. The fast pressure of constant review became a calmer process of steady growth. Let me share practical tips so you can begin, just as she shared them with me. For daytime preparation, choose a small group of useful words or phrases, learn them actively, understand them fully, use them in simple sentences, read them in meaningful groups. Keep the number limited so the brain can handle them well. Do this with calm attention, not with panic. For nighttime support, create or use a slow, rhythmic story that contains those same patterns. The story should be spoken in a warm, unhurried voice. Layer soft binaural frequencies underneath, frequencies chosen to support relaxation and memory consolidation. Listen in a dark, quiet room as you prepare for sleep. Use comfortable headphones or a safe sleep speaker. Do not force attention. Allow sleep to come naturally. Let the story and the frequencies continue as you drift into rest. One more important thing. Do not expect to remember every word the next morning. The learning is often quiet and gradual. It builds over many nights. Even advanced learners and native speakers benefit from good sleep. The brain needs recovery. Trust the process. If you miss one night, simply continue the next night. Consistency over time is more important than perfection on any single day. I also learned that this method is about confidence as much as science. When you panic about forgetting, the brain becomes tense. When you trust the night work, the mind stays calmer. A calm mind learns better during the day and consolidates better at night. So trust yourself, trust your brain. It is more powerful than you think. It can collect patterns during the day. It can strengthen them during REM and deep sleep. It can move short-term vocabulary toward longer-term fluency when the conditions are right.
The old researcher told me one last thing before we said goodbye. She said, language learning is a journey that includes both effort and rest. It is not only a race of waking hours. Some days you will feel great progress. Some days you will feel stuck. This is normal. The important thing is to keep going with both daytime practice and nighttime support. Small progress every day, supported with good sleep, leads to big results over time. Keep giving the brain clear material. Keep protecting the night. Keep trusting the quiet work that happens in the dark. I think about her words often. She was right. Learning for fluency is not only about magic tricks or secret techniques. It is about understanding how the brain works during the day and during the night. It is about giving the hippocampus clean material. It is about supporting the REM cycle and deep sleep with calm conditions and helpful audio tools. And most importantly, it is about patience and consistent practice across both day and night. Today, I still use this method. I study actively during the day. I protect my sleep at night. I use slow, rhythmic stories with soft binaural frequencies as I drift toward rest. English feels more stable. Vocabulary stays longer. Patterns feel more natural. This happened because I stopped treating sleep as lost time. I started treating sleep as a powerful partner in fluency. I stopped trying to force every word into my mind with only daytime effort. I started working with the natural rhythm of the brain. If you are struggling with remembering new English, remember this story. Remember that the problem is not only in your waking effort. The problem may also be in how you use the night. Give your brain clear patterns during the day. Support your brain with calm, rhythmic audio and binaural frequencies at night. Protect your deep sleep and your REM cycles. Do these things consistently. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself on the slow days, and one day you may notice the same quiet change I noticed. Words stay longer, patterns feel easier, listening and speaking require less force. The rushing pressure of constant forgetting becomes a calmer stream of steady growth. Understanding and recalling become more natural, and you will finally feel freer to enjoy English without so much stress or fear of losing what you learned. This is my story. This is what I learned from the old researcher who studied sleep and the brain. I hope it helps you on your journey. Remember, your brain is powerful both day and night. Trust it. Train it during the day, support it during the night with slow stories and binaural frequencies, and it will take you further than effort alone can go. The secret was always inside the natural design of your brain. You just needed to know how to work with both the light and the dark.
The role of the hippocampus. I want to tell you more about one of the most important parts of this story. It is about a special area of the brain called the hippocampus. Many people have never heard this word, but once you understand what the hippocampus does while you rest, you will see language learning in a completely new way. Let me explain it slowly and clearly. When I first met the old researcher, she asked me a simple question. She said, "Do you know where new words go when you first learn them?" I thought for a moment. I said, "They go into my memory." She smiled and said, "Yes, but not into permanent memory yet. First, they go into a temporary place. That temporary place is the hippocampus." She explained it like this. The hippocampus is like a small, careful notebook that the brain carries during the day. Every time you hear a new English word or a new phrase, the hippocampus writes it down quickly. It holds the sound, it holds the meaning, it holds the feeling of the word. But this notebook is not very big. It is only for short-term use. If the notebook becomes too full, or if the brain does not have time to organize it, many of the new words are lost. This is why so many learners feel frustrated. They study hard during the day, they fill the hippocampus with new vocabulary, then they sleep poorly, or they sleep too little, or they fill the night with noise and stress. The next morning, the notebook is messy. Some words are still there. Many words have already faded. The learner thinks, "My memory is weak," but the real problem is that the temporary notebook was never given the chance to transfer its information into long-term storage. The old researcher told me what happens next when sleep is good. During the night, especially during deep sleep and during the REM cycle, the hippocampus begins a quiet and powerful process. It reviews everything it collected during the day. It looks at the new vocabulary. It decides which words and patterns are useful. Then it starts moving the important information out of the temporary notebook and into permanent storage in other parts of the brain. This process is called memory consolidation. She said it very clearly. The hippocampus converts short-term vocabulary into long-term fluency while you rest. This is not just a scientific sentence, this is the key. While your body is still and your eyes are closed, the hippocampus is working. It is strengthening the connections, it is repeating the patterns internally, it is making the new words more stable. You do not need to be awake for this work to happen.
In fact, the work happens best when you are deeply asleep. I asked her, "How long does this process take?" She answered, "It happens in stages across the night. In deep sleep, the brain moves factual information and vocabulary. In REM sleep, the brain connects the words to meaning, to emotion, and to other language patterns. Both stages are important. If you cut your sleep short, you cut the consolidation process short. That is why short sleep often leads to weak retention." She gave me a simple picture to remember. Imagine the hippocampus as a hard-working librarian. During the day, the librarian receives many new books, new words and phrases. The books are placed on a temporary table. At night, when the library is quiet, the librarian carefully takes each useful book and places it on the permanent shelves. If the night is noisy, or if the librarian is interrupted, many books stay on the temporary table and are lost by morning. Good sleep is the quiet night that allows the librarian to finish the work. This is why the method of sleeping for fluency is so powerful. When you give the hippocampus clear, rhythmic, meaningful language during the day, you fill the temporary notebook with good material. When you support the night with calm conditions and soft binaural frequencies, you help the hippocampus do its transfer work more smoothly. The binaural frequencies help the brain enter deeper and more stable sleep stages. In those stages, the conversion from short-term to long-term becomes more effective.
I began to watch this process in my own learning. On days when I studied a small group of phrases carefully and then slept well with the slow story and binaural audio, the next morning those phrases felt stronger. They were easier to recall. They felt closer to my natural speech. On days when I studied a lot but slept poorly, the phrases felt weaker the next day. The difference was clear. The hippocampus had been able to complete its work on the good nights and had been interrupted on the poor nights. The researcher told me one more important detail. The hippocampus does not only store single words, it also stores patterns and groups of words. When you listen to language in chunks and in natural rhythm during the day, the hippocampus receives better quality material. Then, at night, it can consolidate not just isolated words, but useful phrases and structures. This is how short-term vocabulary slowly becomes part of long-term fluency. Fluency is not only knowing many words. Fluency is having those words ready and connected so they can come out naturally. She said, if you want long-term fluency, you must respect the hippocampus. Give it clean material during the day, give it quiet, deep rest at night. Support the sleep stages with calm audio tools if possible. Then trust the process. The conversion from short-term to long-term does not happen by force. It happens by allowing the brain to do what it is designed to do while you rest. This understanding changed how I planned my learning. I stopped trying to push more and more words into the temporary notebook every day. Instead, I chose fewer phrases, learned them well, and then protected the night so the hippocampus could move them into permanent storage. Over time, the permanent storage grew richer. Words stayed longer. Patterns became more automatic. The feeling of fluency grew quietly but steadily.
So when we talk about sleeping for fluency, we are really talking about supporting the hippocampus. We are talking about helping this small but powerful part of the brain convert the short-term vocabulary you collect during the day into the long-term fluency you want for your future. The work happens while you rest. The results appear when you wake up and use the language again. Remember this simple truth. The hippocampus collects during the day. The hippocampus consolidates during the night. Good material plus good sleep equals stronger long-term memory. When you understand this, you stop fighting against forgetting. You start working with the natural design of your own brain. And that is one of the deepest secrets of lasting language progress. This is the role of the hippocampus. This is why rest is not wasted time. This is why protecting your sleep is one of the smartest things you can do for your English. Give the hippocampus what it needs, and it will quietly turn today's new words into tomorrow's lasting fluency.
Now I want to take you from the biology of learning into technical tools that can support it. We have already spoken about the hippocampus. We have spoken about how it collects new vocabulary during the day and how it converts that short-term material into longer-term fluency while you rest. We have spoken about deep sleep and the REM cycle. This is the biological foundation. But the old researcher did not stop at biology. She showed me how we can gently help this natural process with technical audio tools. Let me explain the transition slowly and clearly. After she finished explaining the hippocampus, she looked at me and said, "Understanding the biology is important, but knowledge alone is not enough. We can also support the biology with the right tools. The brain has natural stages of sleep. We cannot force those stages, but we can create conditions that make it easier for the brain to enter them and stay in them longer. This is where technical audio tools become useful." She began the transition with a simple idea. She said, "The brain is always listening, even when we are moving towards sleep. Soft sound can guide the brain. Harsh sound can disturb it. If we choose the right kind of sound, we can help the brain move more smoothly from the waking state into the calm states where memory consolidation happens. This is the bridge from pure biology to practical tools." The main technical tool she taught me is called binaural audio. She explained it step by step so I would not feel confused. When the left ear hears one soft frequency and the right ear hears a slightly different soft frequency, the brain itself creates a third gentle beat. This inner beat is called a binaural beat. It is not a sound that comes from outside, it is a sound the brain produces inside. Certain frequencies of these binaural beats can encourage the brain to slow down and enter deeper relaxation. She said, "We are not trying to control the brain like a machine, we are simply offering it a calm signal. When the brain receives this gentle rhythmic signal, it often becomes easier to leave the busy waking state and move toward the quieter states of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. These are the same stages where the hippocampus can more effectively transfer the new vocabulary into longer-term storage." I asked her if any kind of music or sound would work. She shook her head gently. She said, "Not every sound is helpful. Loud music, exciting songs, or fast speech can keep the brain too alert. The technical tools must match the biology. The frequencies should be soft, the story should be slow and warm, the overall feeling should be safe and unhurried.
Only then do the audio tools truly support the natural memory processes instead of fighting against them. She described how the combination works. The slow story carries the linguistic material. The words and phrases enter the temporary notebook of the hippocampus during the evening listening. At the same time, the soft binaural frequencies help the nervous system relax. Breathing becomes slower, muscle tension reduces, the mind becomes quieter. In this calmer state, it becomes easier to fall asleep and to stay in the deeper stages of sleep for longer. And it is in those deeper stages that the hippocampus can more effectively transfer the new vocabulary into longer-term storage. I asked her if any kind of music or sound would work. She shook her head gently. She said, "Not every sound is helpful. Loud music, exciting songs, or fast speech can keep the brain too alert. The technical tools must match the biology. The frequencies should be soft, the story should be slow and warm, the overall feeling should be safe and unhurried. Only then do the audio tools truly support the natural memory processes instead of fighting against them."
She also explained that binaural audio is only one part of the technical support. The way the story is written and spoken is equally important. The narrative should be rhythmic. It should repeat key phrases in a natural way. It should feel like a calm river of language rather than a list of words. When the language itself is designed for the subconscious mind, and when it is supported by appropriate binaural frequencies, the transition from biology to technology becomes complete. We are no longer only hoping that sleep will help, we are actively creating better conditions for sleep to help. This understanding changed how I prepared my evenings. Before, I used to study until I was exhausted and then fall into bed with a busy mind. Now, I began to create a bridge between the day and the night. I would take the phrases I had learned, place them inside a slow and gentle story, and play that story with soft binaural frequencies underneath. As I listened, I could feel my body settling. The technical tool was helping my biology. The biology was then able to do its night work more effectively. The old researcher summarized the transition in one clear paragraph for me. She said, "First, understand the biology. The hippocampus collects during the day and consolidates during the night. Deep sleep and REM sleep are the stages where short-term vocabulary becomes more permanent. Then use technical audio tools to support those stages. Soft binaural frequencies help the brain enter and maintain the helpful states. A slow, rhythmic story carries the language patterns into the mind at the right time. Together, the biology and the technical tools work as partners. I want you to feel this transition clearly. We do not throw away the science of the brain. We do not ignore the natural processes of sleep. Instead, we respect the biology and then carefully add technical tools that make the biology work more smoothly. That is the intelligent way. That is the bridge from knowledge to practice. When you use binaural audio under a gentle language story, you are not doing something strange or artificial. You are simply giving your brain a calmer pathway into the same natural states it already needs for memory consolidation. You are helping the hippocampus receive good material and then helping the whole brain stay in the deep and REM stages long enough to finish the conversion from short-term vocabulary into longer-term fluency. This is the transition from the living biology of the hippocampus and sleep cycles to the careful technical tools of binaural frequencies and slow narrative audio. Both are necessary. Biology shows us the destination.
technical tools help us walk the path more gently and more effectively. Once I understood this bridge, my whole approach to language learning became more complete. I no longer separated study and sleep. I began to see them as two parts of one system. The day feeds the hippocampus. The night, supported by the right audio tools, allows the hippocampus to complete its work. And over time, short-term words quietly become part of lasting fluency. This is what the old researcher wanted me to learn. Respect the biology, then use intelligent technical tools to support it. When both are working together, the process of sleeping for fluency becomes natural, gentle, and powerful.
Scientific validation of your gentle approach. Now, I want to speak about something very important. It is about the scientific validation of this gentle approach. Many people hear about sleep learning and think it sounds soft or even magical. They wonder if it is real. They wonder if it has any true scientific foundation. The old researcher answered this question with great care. She showed me that the gentle method is not only pleasant, it is also deeply supported by what we know about the brain. Let me explain it slowly. She began by introducing a powerful word, neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means the brain's natural ability to change, to grow new connections, and to reorganize itself through experience. The brain is not fixed like a stone, it is living and flexible. Every time we learn something new, the brain makes small physical changes. Connections between brain cells become stronger, new pathways form. This is neuroplasticity. It is one of the greatest secrets of how learning really happens. The researcher said, when you understand neuroplasticity, you stop seeing language learning as only hard effort. You begin to see it as a process of gently shaping the brain over time. And here is the important part. Neuroplasticity does not only happen when you are awake and struggling, it also happens during rest. In fact, some of the most important strengthening of new connections happens while you sleep. This is the scientific validation of the gentle approach. Traditional study often focuses only on active effort. Repeat more, study longer, push harder. But science shows us that the brain also needs recovery time to make the new learning permanent. When we give the brain clear language patterns during the day and then support deep, calm rest at night, we are working with neuroplasticity instead of against it. We are allowing the brain to build stronger pathways for English. She explained it further. During the day, when you listen to useful phrases and understand them, you are creating the first small sparks of new connections. These connections are still weak. They can disappear easily. At night, during deep sleep and REM sleep, the brain replays and strengthens those connections. This is part of neuroplasticity. The gentle sleep learning method supports exactly this process. The slow story gives the brain clean material. The soft binaural frequencies help the brain enter and stay in the stages where strengthening happens more effectively. This is why the approach elevates ordinary passive listening into something much more valuable. Ordinary passive listening is just hearing sounds. But when you combine clear linguistic patterns with the right sleep conditions and supportive audio tools, the experience becomes a strategic recovery session. You are no longer only resting, you are giving your brain the exact environment it needs to turn temporary learning into more permanent change. You are using neuroplasticity in an intelligent way.
The old researcher looked at me and said, "Many learners treat sleep as empty time. They think real progress only happens when they feel tired from study. But science tells us something different. Recovery is not the opposite of learning. Recovery is part of learning. When you protect your sleep and support it with gentle, meaningful language audio, you are turning rest into a high-value session for the brain." She gave me a clear picture. Imagine the brain as a growing tree. During the day, you water the tree with new words and phrases. That is important, but the real growth of the roots happens quietly at night. If you keep shaking the tree or shining bright lights on it all night, the roots stay weak. If you give the tree darkness, stillness, and the right quiet conditions, the roots grow deeper. Neuroplasticity is like the natural growth of those roots. The gentle sleep learning method simply creates better conditions for that growth. This scientific understanding changed how I valued my evenings. Before, I felt guilty if I stopped studying early. Now I understood that stopping at the right time and preparing for quality sleep was not laziness, it was strategy. It was working with the brain's natural ability to change. The slow story and the binaural frequencies were not entertainment, they were tools that supported neuroplasticity during the most important recovery hours of the day. The researcher emphasized one more point. She said, "The gentle approach is powerful exactly because it is gentle. The brain does not build strong new pathways under constant stress and force. It builds them best when there is a balance between focused input and deep recovery. By making the night listening calm, rhythmic, and safe, we reduce resistance in the nervous system. A calm nervous system allows neuroplasticity to work more freely. This is why the method feels soft, but produces real results over time." So, when we speak about scientific validation, we are speaking about this. Neuroplasticity proves that the brain can change. Sleep research proves that much of the strengthening of new learning happens during rest. The combination of clear language patterns and supportive binaural audio gives the brain better material and better conditions for that change. Therefore, the gentle sleep learning approach is not only pleasant, it is a strategic recovery session that works with the real science of how the brain grows. I want you to feel the value of this. You are not simply listening to a nice story at night. You are participating in a process that science recognizes. You are giving your hippocampus good material. You are supporting the sleep stages where consolidation happens. You are using neuroplasticity instead of fighting against the brain's natural rhythms. This is what elevates the experience from passive listening to high-value strategic recovery.
The old researcher finished this part of our conversation with quiet confidence. She said, "The most effective methods are often the ones that look gentle on the surface, but are deeply intelligent underneath." When you understand neuroplasticity, you stop forcing the brain and start cooperating with it. That cooperation is the real secret. This is the scientific validation of the gentle approach. It rests on the living truth of neuroplasticity. It respects the brain's need for recovery. It transforms ordinary rest into a purposeful session that helps short-term vocabulary become longer-term fluency. And it does all of this without stress, without force, and without fighting against the natural design of the mind. When you lie down tonight with a slow story and soft binaural frequencies, remember this. You are not being passive, You are being strategic. You are giving your brain the conditions it needs to change and grow. That is the quiet power of this method. That is the science behind the gentleness. Strategic optimization of subconscious learning. Now, I want to take you one step deeper. We have spoken about the hippocampus. We have spoken about sleep stages and memory consolidation. We have spoken about neuroplasticity and the scientific validation of the gentle approach. But there is still another level. It is the level of strategic optimization. It is the level where we stop using only simple stories and begin to use the method with greater precision and greater intelligence. Let me explain this slowly and carefully. The old researcher looked at me one afternoon and said, "You have understood the foundation. Now it is time to optimize. Symbol stories are good at the beginning. They create safety. They create calm. They introduce the brain to the idea of learning during rest. But if you stay only with simple stories forever, you limit the power of the method. Real progress comes when we move from general stories to targeted language material." She continued, "One of the most useful targets is phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are everywhere in real English. They are the small combinations that native speakers use constantly. Pick up, get over, look after, run into, break down, carry on, and hundreds more. These expressions are difficult for many learners because they cannot be translated word for word. They must be absorbed as complete units of meaning. The sleeping brain is very good at absorbing complete units when the conditions are right." This was the beginning of strategic optimization. Instead of giving the brain only general, easy stories, we begin to design the night audio with clear intention. We choose specific phrasal verbs that the learner needs. We place those phrasal verbs inside a slow, rhythmic, natural narrative. We repeat them gently in different sentences so the brain can feel their meaning and their rhythm. Then we support the whole experience with carefully chosen binaural frequencies. This combination turns ordinary sleep listening into a sophisticated upgrade for the English system inside the mind. The researcher called this upgrade the English machine. She smiled when she used the words. She said, "Your brain already has an English machine. It is the network of sounds, words, patterns, and meanings that allows you to understand and speak. At the beginning, the machine is small and slow. With ordinary study, it grows step by step. But when we combine targeted language material with nervous system regulation during sleep, we give the machine a higher quality of practice. We optimize the subconscious learning process." She explained why this is strategic. Simple stories help the nervous system feel safe. That is the first stage. Once safety is established, we can introduce more precise material. Targeted phrasal verbs give the brain high-value patterns. These patterns appear again and again in real life. When the sleeping brain consolidates them, the learner begins to recognize and use them more naturally during the day. The progress feels quieter than hard study, but it is deeper. At the same time, the binaural beats continue their important work. They help regulate the nervous system. A regulated nervous system is calm enough to enter deep sleep and REM sleep more easily. It is also calm enough to allow neuroplasticity to work without resistance. When the nervous system is tense, the brain stays in a protective mode. Learning becomes harder.
When the nervous system is regulated, the brain becomes more open to change. This is why the combination is powerful. We are not only giving the brain good language, we are also giving the brain a calm internal environment in which to absorb that language. I began to apply this strategic level in my own practice. First, I continued with simple, gentle stories to keep the feeling of safety. Then I slowly introduced targeted groups of phrasal verbs. For example, I chose a small family of related expressions: get up, get over, get along, get through. I placed them inside a slow evening story that felt natural and warm. The story repeated the expressions in different situations so the brain could feel their different meanings. Underneath the story, I kept the soft binaural frequencies that supported deep rest. After several nights with this focused material, I noticed something interesting. During the day, when I heard or read those same phrasal verbs, they felt more familiar. They required less translation. They came to my mind more quickly when I wanted to speak. The English machine inside my mind had received a small but precise upgrade. The subconscious had done part of the work while I slept. The old researcher emphasized that this process must stay gentle. She said, optimization does not mean pressure. Optimization means intelligent design. We choose better material, we support the nervous system, we protect the sleep stages, we trust the slow work of consolidation. If we become impatient and push too much material too quickly, the nervous system becomes tense again, and the advantage disappears. This is the heart of strategic optimization of subconscious learning. We move from simple stories to targeted phrasal verbs. We continue to use binaural beats for nervous system regulation. We treat the night not as empty time, but as a high-value session for the English machine. We respect the biology of the hippocampus and neuroplasticity. We add technical tools with care and precision. The result is a sophisticated yet gentle upgrade that works with the brain instead of against it. She gave me a clear sequence to follow. Stage 1, establish safety with simple, warm stories and soft binaural frequencies. Stage 2, begin introducing small groups of high-value language, especially phrasal verbs and natural expressions. Stage 3, keep the nervous system regulated so that deep sleep and REM sleep can do their consolidation work. Stage 4, review lightly during the day and notice what feels easier. Stage 5, continue the cycle with patience, always protecting the quality of rest. When these stages are followed consistently, the subconscious learning process becomes optimized. The brain receives better material. The nervous system stays calm enough to absorb it. The hippocampus is able to convert more of the short-term input into longer-term fluency. Neuroplasticity is supported rather than blocked by stress. Over time, the English machine becomes faster, smoother, and more reliable. When you lie down tonight, you can begin to apply this level. Choose a small group of useful phrasal verbs. Place them inside a slow and natural story. Support the experience with soft binaural frequencies. Allow your nervous system to settle. Allow the hippocampus to work. Allow neuroplasticity to strengthen the new patterns. And trust that the English machine inside you is receiving a quiet but valuable upgrade while you rest. This is the strategic path. This is how subconscious learning becomes not only gentle but truly optimized. Fresh narrative perspective on productivity.
I want to speak to you today in a slightly different way. In my earlier stories, I often walked beside you as a fellow learner. I shared my struggles. I shared the moments when everything felt difficult. That style has value. It creates connection. But today, I want to step into a different role. Today, I want to speak as a strategic mentor. I want to explain the how behind the sleep learning method with clarity and depth, while still keeping the same calm, immersive feeling you already know. This is not only a story about rest, this is a story about intelligent productivity. Most people think of productivity as more activity, more hours, more lists, more effort. They believe that if they stay busy enough, results will come. But real productivity is not measured by how tired you feel at the end of the day. Real productivity is measured by how much meaningful progress remains after time has passed. In language learning, this means how much English stays with you, becomes usable, and feels natural weeks and months later. The sleep learning method is one of the most powerful ways I know to increase that kind of lasting productivity. Let me explain the how from the beginning, step by step, without rushing. First, understand the basic limitation of ordinary study. When you study during the day, you place new words and phrases into short-term memory. This is necessary, but short-term memory is fragile. Without the right kind of recovery, much of what you put in during the day leaks away during the night. You work hard, yet the net result remains small. This is why so many learners feel they are running in place. They are productive in the sense of being busy, but they are not productive in the sense of building permanent ability. The sleep learning method changes this equation. It does not ask you to study more hours. It asks you to study with better timing and better recovery. During the day, you still learn actively. You choose useful language. You understand it. You use it in simple ways. But you stop before exhaustion. Then you prepare the night audio as a second stage of work, a stage that happens while you rest. This second stage is where much of the real consolidation occurs. By supporting that stage, you increase the percentage of daytime learning that becomes long-term ability. That is strategic productivity. Here is the practical how in clear sequence. Step 1. Select high-value material during the day. Do not try to learn everything. Choose a small number of phrasal verbs, natural expressions, or useful sentence patterns. Learn them with full attention. Understand the meaning. Feel the rhythm. Use them in a few of your own sentences. This focused input is more productive than large quantities of half-understood material. Step 2. Stop at the right time. Leave some energy in the nervous system. A calm nervous system learns better and recovers better. If you push until you are completely drained, the night work becomes less effective. Strategic learners know when to close the books. Step 3. Prepare the night audio with intention. Take the same material you studied and place it inside a slow, warm, rhythmic story. The story should feel natural, not like a list. Repeat the target expressions gently in different contexts so the brain can absorb them as living language. Underneath the story, layer soft binaural frequencies chosen to support relaxation and deeper sleep stages. This combination gives the brain two things at once: clean linguistic patterns and a calmer internal state. Create the right external conditions.
Make the room dark, reduce noise, keep the phone away. Lie down with comfortable headphones or a safe sleep speaker. Begin the audio as you settle. Do not force attention. Allow the body and mind to drift towards sleep while the gentle language continues. The goal is not to stay awake and study. The goal is to fall asleep with high-quality material present and with the nervous system regulated. This is how subconscious learning becomes not only gentle but truly optimized.
Many learners make the same mistake. They treat productivity as a daytime-only activity. They fill every free hour with study and treat sleep as lost time. The result is a tired nervous system, weaker consolidation, and slower long-term progress. The strategic mentor view is different. It says, the day is for focused input, the night is for intelligent recovery and consolidation. When both parts are optimized, total productivity rises, even if the number of active study hours stays the same or even decreases. Let me speak directly to the feeling of this approach. When you use the method correctly, the evenings begin to feel different. Instead of guilt for stopping study, you feel clarity. You know you have given the brain good material. You know you have prepared the conditions for the hippocampus to work. You know the binaural support is helping the nervous system settle. You lie down with a sense of quiet intention rather than exhaustion or anxiety. That shift in feeling is itself a form of productivity. A regulated nervous system learns faster and recovers more completely. Over time, the results appear in practical ways. Phrasal verbs and natural expressions begin to feel more automatic. You spend less energy translating in your head. You recall language with less effort during conversations. You need fewer intense review sessions because more of the material has already been strengthened during sleep. This is the compounding effect of strategic recovery. Small nightly advantages accumulate into noticeable fluency gains. I want to be very clear about what this method is not. It is not a magic replacement for all daytime practice. It is not a way to learn complex grammar without any conscious effort. It is not an excuse to avoid speaking or active use of the language. It is a powerful optimization layer that sits on top of sensible daytime learning. When the foundation of active practice is present, the sleep layer multiplies the results. When the foundation is missing, the sleep layer has less to consolidate. The fresh narrative perspective I am offering you today is this: you are not only a student of English, you are the designer of your own learning system. You decide what material enters the system. You decide the quality of the recovery environment. You decide whether the nervous system is supported or neglected. When you accept this role of strategic mentor to yourself, productivity stops being a matter of willpower alone. It becomes a matter of intelligent design. Design the day for clean, focused input. Design the evening for calm transition. Design the night for deep consolidation. Design the next morning for light review and renewed focus. This cycle, repeated with patience, produces more lasting progress than chaotic bursts of intense study followed by collapse. The old researcher once said to me, "The most productive people I have observed are not the ones who never rest, they are the ones who rest with purpose. They understand that recovery is not the opposite of work. Recovery is what allows work to become permanent." That sentence stayed with me. It applies perfectly to language learning. Sleep, supported by targeted language audio and nervous system regulation, is purposeful recovery. It is productivity in its quieter, deeper form.
If you adopt this perspective, your relationship with time will change. You will stop measuring your worth by how many hours you forced yourself to study. You will begin measuring progress by how much English remains usable after days and weeks have passed. You will protect your sleep not as a luxury, but as a core part of the learning strategy. You will choose material more carefully because you know it will be processed again during the night. You will treat binaural frequencies and slow narrative audio as professional tools rather than background entertainment. This is the fresh narrative perspective on productivity. It keeps the immersive, calm style you already know. At the same time, it positions you as the strategic mentor of your own brain. It explains the how without losing the feeling of safety and gentleness. It turns the sleep learning method from a pleasant habit into a deliberate system for long-term fluency gains. You now understand the sequence. You understand why the night matters. You understand how targeted phrasal verbs, rhythmic storytelling, and binaural support work together. You understand that nervous system regulation is not separate from language learning. It is one of the foundations that makes lasting learning possible. Begin where you are. Tonight, choose a small group of useful expressions. Place them inside a slow story or use a prepared audio that already contains them. Add the soft binaural layer. Prepare a dark, quiet room. Lie down with the intention of allowing both rest and consolidation. Tomorrow, notice what feels even slightly easier. Then repeat. Small, strategic cycles repeated consistently create large results. That is real productivity. That is the method. That is the perspective I want to leave with you. You do not need to become louder or harder on yourself. You need to become more intelligent about how the whole system works: the waking mind, the sleeping mind, the nervous system, and the natural processes of memory and change. When you operate from that understanding, every night becomes an opportunity. Every period of rest becomes part of the work, and fluency stops healing like something you must chase through exhaustion. It begins to feel like something you are quietly building, day and night, with patience and precision. This is the strategic mentor view. This is the deeper how. This is how we turn the gentle sleep learning method into a powerful engine of lasting productivity. Take it slowly, apply it consistently. Trust the compounding effect of intelligent recovery. Your English will thank you in the weeks and months ahead.
How binaural audio rewires your brain for vocabulary retention. Lie back now. Let your head sink into the pillow. Let your hands rest, heavy and still at your sides. Tonight, before you drift away completely, I want to tell you a story. It is the story of a man named Daniel and the quiet, almost accidental discovery he made about his own mind. You do not need to concentrate on anything I say. You do not need to remember it on purpose. Just let the words move through you softly, like warm water moving over smooth stones. Let your breathing slow. Let your jaw loosen. Let your thoughts grow wide and slow and far apart. Daniel was a translator. For 15 years, he had worked with words for a living, and yet learning new words for himself had always felt like carrying stones uphill. He would sit at his desk late into the evening, repeating vocabulary lists until his eyes burned, and still by morning half of it had slipped away like water through open fingers. He began to wonder if his brain was simply too tired, too old, too worn down by years of forcing information into it. Then, one winter, he met a scientist named Dr. Ansel,
a quiet man who studied the sleeping brain in a small laboratory outside the city. Dr. Ansel listened patiently as Daniel described his frustration. Then he said something that Daniel never forgot. "You have been trying to teach your brain during its busiest hours," Dr. Ansel said, "when it is least willing to listen. But there is another time, a quieter time, when the brain becomes remarkably open. It happens after the lights go out, after the body grows still, deep inside the architecture of sleep." Daniel frowned. "You mean I can learn while I'm unconscious?" he asked. Dr. Ansel smiled, the way people smile when they are about to explain something they love deeply. "Not exactly unconscious," he said. "Sleep is not empty. Sleep is layered, like the floors of a tall building. As you descend into deeper stages, your brainwaves slow down. They move from the fast, chaotic rhythm of waking thought into long, steady, rolling waves. Scientists call this process brainwave synchronization. It is the moment when scattered electrical activity settles into a single, unified rhythm, almost like a crowd of separate voices slowly falling into the same calm heartbeat. Daniel had never thought of his own mind as having rhythm before. He always imagined thinking as something sharp, effortful, deliberate. Dr. Ansel continued, "During certain sleep stages, the brain replays the events of the day. It is called memory consolidation. Fragile, freshly learned information gets strengthened, transferred from short-term storage into long-term storage, almost like moving fragile boxes from a temporary shelf into a permanent, reinforced vault. This happens naturally every single night, whether you try to help it or not." Daniel asked the obvious question, "So if this already happens naturally, why does my vocabulary still disappear by morning?" Dr. Ansel nodded, as if he had expected this exact question many times before. "Because," he said gently, "your brain can only consolidate what it received calmly. When you force information in through stress, through repetition, through anxious late-night cramming, your brain stores it as an unpleasant task, tangled together with tension and fatigue. But when information arrives gently, wrapped in a slow, unhurried story, without pressure, without testing, the brain treats it completely differently. It becomes part of an experience, not a chore, and experiences consolidate far more efficiently during deep sleep than isolated facts ever do." Daniel sat with this idea quietly, turning it over in his mind. Dr. Ansel then explained something that fascinated Daniel even more, something about sound itself. There is a subtle audio technique called binaural layering. If one tone plays softly in the left ear and a slightly different tone plays softly in the right ear, the brain perceives a third phantom rhythm, a pulse that exists only inside your own head, blending both signals together. Many researchers have explored whether these gentle pulses, played quietly beneath a calm voice, may encourage the brain to settle more easily into the slow, steady rhythm associated with deep, restorative sleep. Daniel found this almost impossible to imagine, an invisible rhythm created entirely inside his own skull.
"Think of it like this," Dr. Ansel said. "Imagine two people humming slightly different notes on opposite sides of a quiet room. You would not simply hear two separate hums. Your brain would blend them together, creating a slow, pulsing wave that neither person is actually making on their own. That third wave, created only within your own perception, can gently guide your brainwaves toward calmer, slower patterns,
encouraging the body to relax more completely into deep, restorative stages of rest. Daniel began to understand why this discovery had taken him by surprise. It was not magic, it was simply the architecture of perception itself. That night, Dr. Ansel invited Daniel to try something simple. Before sleep, he would listen to a calm, slow story, spoken gently, layered quietly beneath these soft binaural tones, containing a handful of new and elegant words woven naturally into sentences about gardens, mountains, and rivers at dusk. He was told not to test himself, not to repeat anything aloud, not to strain toward memorization. Simply listen, the way one listens to gentle wind moving through open windows, present but undemanding, effortless and unhurried. That first night, Daniel lay in the darkness, and a slow, steady voice began describing a mountain village at twilight, using words like serene and resilient and eloquent, weaving them naturally into descriptions of quiet streets and softly glowing windows. He did not try to grasp each word immediately. He simply let the sentences flow past him, trusting that meaning would settle in on its own, the way understanding often arrives sideways, through feeling rather than through force. Somewhere in the middle of the story, his thoughts loosened, drifted, and dissolved gently into sleep before the story had even finished. In the morning, something curious happened. Daniel opened a newspaper, and the word resilient appeared in the very first paragraph. He did not need to search for its meaning. It was simply there already, sitting quietly in his mind, like a tool left exactly where he had left it the night before. He mentioned this to Dr. Ansel later that week, slightly amazed. Dr. Ansel nodded, unsurprised. "This is not a trick," he said carefully. "It is simply a different route into memory, one that avoids the exhausting friction of forced repetition." Over the following weeks, Daniel continued the practice. Each evening, a new, calm story, layered beneath quiet, steady tones, introducing new vocabulary through gentle narrative rather than isolated lists. He began to notice that these words stayed with him longer, arriving naturally in conversations, appearing effortlessly when he needed them, rather than sitting stiffly in some forgotten mental drawer. Dr. Ansel explained the deeper reason one evening, his voice as calm and steady as the recordings themselves. "Language," he said, "is not simply information. Language is texture. It carries rhythm, emotion, and imagery. When a word is learned only as a flat definition, it remains lifeless, easy to lose. But when a word is learned inside a story, surrounded by feeling and sound, it becomes three-dimensional. It gains weight. It gains a place to live." Daniel thought of the word serene and how he now pictured, without effort, the quiet mountain street from the story, softly glowing windows against a darkening sky. That image made the word almost impossible to forget, anchored permanently to something real, something felt, rather than simply memorized. As the weeks passed, Daniel noticed something else changing as well. He was falling asleep more quickly and waking feeling steadier, calmer, less scattered than before. The stories were never rushed, they were deliberately slow, designed not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding his thoughts from the sharp, busy edges of the day into smooth, rounded, unhurried rest. The vocabulary arrived almost as a quiet companion to this deeper relaxation, rather than as the primary goal itself. Learning had stopped feeling like labor. It had become something closer to comfort, something closer to rest.
Dr. Ansell offered one final thought before their conversation closed that evening. "There is a difference," he said, "between forcing knowledge into the mind and inviting it in gently. Forcing creates resistance, tension, and friction. Invitation creates openness. When new words arrive through a slow, calm story, layered beneath steady sound, without demanding instant recall, the brain's doors open more willingly, and what enters through an open door tends to remain far longer than what is pushed through a locked one." Daniel carried this idea with him for years afterward, long after their conversations had ended. He began creating his own quiet stories before bed, weaving new vocabulary from his translation work into gentle narratives about villages, rivers, and quiet evening walks beneath slow-moving clouds. He stopped believing his memory was weak or worn down by age. He understood, finally, that his memory had simply needed a gentler invitation, a slower, steadier approach, rather than constant pressure and urgency layered on top of already exhausted hours. And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories the way gentle light settles slowly across still water at the end of a long day. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to check tomorrow morning. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur softly into one another, the way distant lights blur gently when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy, conscious mind loosens its grip and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain, but through experience, not through memorization, but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way frost gathers slowly across a window overnight, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed. Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Daniel and the quiet mountain village and the steady, patient voice of Dr. Ansell settle gently into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only slow breath, only the soft, continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now. Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like tools left exactly where you set them down the night before. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given. Memory consolidation and language acquisition. Settle now into the softness beneath you. Let your eyes close, gently, without effort. Tonight, I want to tell you a story. It is the story of a woman named Marisol, a school teacher who believed for many years that her memory was simply not built for languages. You do not need to hold on to anything I say. You do not need to try. Just let the words settle over you slowly, like a warm blanket being drawn gently across a quiet room. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your muscles loosen, one by one. Let your thoughts begin to spread apart, wide and slow and far. Marisol had tried everything. Flashcards stacked on her nightstand, apps that pinged her phone with reminders, notebooks filled with vocabulary, written and rewritten until the pages grew soft at the edges. And still, each morning, so much of it had quietly vanished overnight, as though her mind had simply closed its hand and let the words fall through. She began to believe she had reached some kind of limit, some ceiling that other people, luckier people, did not seem to have. Then, during a long summer, she met a sleep researcher named Professor Iwasaki, a calm, unhurried man who spent his days studying what happens inside the brain after the lights go out. Marisol told him everything: the exhaustion, the repetition, the words that arrived and left like guests who never truly settled in. Professor Iwasaki listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he said something she did not expect. "You have been asking your mind to do all of its work while awake, when awareness is loud and crowded and easily distracted. But there is another window, quieter and far more receptive, that opens later, once the body has gone still and the mind has begun its descent into sleep." Marisol tilted her head. "You're saying sleep can teach me something?" Professor Iwasaki smiled patiently. "Sleep does not simply switch the mind off," he explained. "It moves through distinct stages, each with its own particular rhythm. As you fall deeper, your brain waves slow from the fast, fragmented pattern of waking thought into long, rolling waves, steady and unified. This is sometimes called neural synchronization, a state in which scattered regions of the brain begin to fire together in rhythm, almost like a large orchestra finally settling into the same tempo after a chaotic warm-up. Marisol had never imagined her thoughts as something with rhythm before. She had always pictured her mind as something effortful, something that had to be pushed and pulled into place. Professor Iwasaki continued gently. "During certain stages of this deep, slow wave sleep, something remarkable takes place. The brain reactivates patterns from earlier in the day, replaying them quietly without your awareness. This is called memory consolidation. It is the process by which short-term, fragile memories are gradually transferred into long-term storage, strengthened, stabilized, made permanent. It happens every night in every sleeping brain, whether we help it along or not." Marisol asked the obvious question: "Then why doesn't it work for my vocabulary? Why does it still disappear?" Professor Iwasaki nodded slowly, as though he had heard this question many times before from many tired students. Because, he said, consolidation strengthens what is stored calmly. Information absorbed through anxiety, through rushed repetition, through late-night cramming under pressure, becomes tangled together with stress and fatigue. It is harder for the brain to sort, harder to strengthen cleanly. But information that arrives gently, wrapped inside a slow and calm narrative, spoken gently, containing a small number of new and elegant words, folded naturally into sentences describing quiet places, evening light, and slow-moving rivers. She was told not to test herself, not to repeat anything aloud, not to reach for the words with effort. Simply listen, the way one listens to rainfall outside a window at night, present but undemanding, requiring nothing at all. That first evening, Marisol lay in the darkness, and a slow, steady voice began describing an old library at dusk, using words like meticulous and profound and unwavering, weaving them gently into descriptions of dust-lit shelves and quiet footsteps on wooden floors. She did not strain to catch each word. She let the sentences move past her, trusting the meaning to settle in naturally. Somewhere near the middle of the story, her thoughts loosened, slowed, and folded gently into sleep, long before the narration had finished. In the morning, something small but unmistakable happened. She opened a book for her students, and the word unwavering appeared in the very first sentence. She did not search her memory for its meaning. It was simply there, waiting quietly as though it had always belonged to her. She mentioned this to Professor Iwasaki days later, still slightly amazed. He nodded, entirely unsurprised by now. "This is not unusual," he said. "It is simply how memory prefers to work when it is not forced." Over the following weeks, Marisol continued the practice faithfully. Each evening, a new slow story carrying a handful of new words inside calm, unhurried sentences. She noticed gradually that these words stayed with her differently than anything she had studied before. They did not feel memorized, they felt known, the way a familiar street feels known, without any conscious effort to recall its shape. Professor Iwasaki explained this difference one evening, his voice as slow and steady as the recordings themselves. "There are, broadly speaking, two systems of memory," he said. "One is effortful and deliberate, the kind used for memorizing lists, dates, and isolated facts. It is powerful but fragile, easily disrupted by stress or fatigue. The other is contextual and experiential, built through story, emotion, and meaningful association. It is slower to build, but far more durable once it takes hold." Marisol thought of the word meticulous and how she now pictured, without any effort at all, the quiet library shelves from the story, dust drifting slowly through soft evening light. That image made the word feel permanent, rooted somewhere far deeper than memorization alone could reach. As the weeks passed, Marisol noticed something changing beyond her vocabulary as well. She was falling asleep more easily and waking with a calmer, steadier mind, less scattered by the residue of anxious late-night study. The stories themselves were never rushed. They were deliberately slow, shaped not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding her thoughts from the sharp edges of the school day into something rounder, softer, more restful.
The vocabulary arrived almost as a quiet companion to this deeper calm, rather than as the primary demand placed upon her tired mind. Professor Iwasaki shared one final thought before their conversation closed that evening. There is a meaningful difference, he said, between forcing information into the mind and inviting it in gently. Forcing creates resistance, tension, friction. Invitation creates openness. When new words arrive through a slow, unhurried story without demanding instant recall, the mind's doors tend to open more willingly, and what enters through an open door tends to remain far longer than what is pushed through one that has been forced shut. Marisol carried this idea with her for years, long after their conversations had ended, long after that particular summer had passed. She began writing her own gentle stories for her students, weaving new vocabulary into quiet narratives about libraries, gardens, and slow evenings beneath open windows. She stopped believing her memory was simply weak or limited. She understood, finally, that her memory had only ever needed a different kind of invitation, a slower, calmer approach, rather than the constant urgency she had once placed upon it, night after exhausted night. And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended quietly to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further still. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories the way gentle light settles slowly across still water at the close of a long day. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to remember on purpose. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently into one another, the way distant lights blur softly when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open any longer. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy, conscious mind loosens its grip and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain but through experience, not through memorization but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way frost gathers slowly across a window overnight, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed to happen. Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Marisol and a quiet library at dusk and the slow, patient voice of Professor Iwasaki settle gently into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do right now. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only slow breath, only the soft, continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now. Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like an old book left open on a table exactly where you set it down the night before. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given.
Deep sleep, deeper vocabulary. A binaural story for subconscious learning. Let your body rest now, heavy and still, sinking slowly into the softness beneath you. Close your eyes. There is nothing to do tonight except listen. I want to tell you a story. It is the story of a young man named Theo and the quiet, unexpected night that changed the way he understood his own mind. You do not need to hold on to anything. You do not need to try. Just let the words drift over you gently, like slow waves moving across a dark and peaceful shore. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your body grow heavier with every breath. Let your thoughts spread apart, wide and slow and distant. Theo had always struggled with words, not speaking them, not understanding grammar, but keeping them. He would learn a new word in the morning, feel proud of it by afternoon, and lose it entirely by the following evening, as though his mind had a slow and steady leak that nothing could repair. He filled notebook after notebook with vocabulary, and still so much of it simply drained away, quietly, invisibly, night after night. He began to wonder if perhaps some minds simply were not built to hold language the way other minds could. Then, one autumn, he met a sound engineer named Priya, who spent her nights recording something unusual, gentle tones designed not for music, but for the sleeping brain. Theo asked her, half joking, whether sound alone could actually change how the brain learns. Priya smiled, the way people smile when a question touches something they have thought about for years. Not the sound alone, she said, but what the sound invites the brain to do. She explained that deep within sleep, far beneath ordinary awareness, the brain moves through distinct stages, each with its own particular rhythm, its own electrical signature. As a person sinks deeper into rest, brain waves slow, spreading into long, wide, rolling patterns, quite different from the fast, fragmented activity of a busy, waking mind. There is a technique, Priya said, called binaural layering, when one gentle tone plays softly in the left ear and a slightly different tone plays softly in the right ear, the brain perceives a third phantom pulse, a rhythm that exists nowhere outside your own perception, blended entirely inside your head. Theo frowned, trying to picture it. "So my brain invents a sound that isn't really there?" he asked. "In a sense, yes," Priya said, and many researchers have explored whether this internally perceived rhythm can gently nudge brainwaves toward the slower, steadier patterns associated with the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep, encouraging the body to settle more completely into rest. Theo still looked uncertain, so Priya offered him an image. Imagine two singers standing on opposite sides of a quiet hall, each humming a slightly different note. You would not hear two separate hums. Your mind would blend them together, creating a slow, pulsing wave that neither singer alone was actually producing. That blended wave exists only inside your own perception, and yet it can still gently guide your attention, your breathing, even the pace of your own thoughts. Theo began to understand that the mystery was not in the sound itself, but in what the listening brain quietly built from it. "But what does this have to do with vocabulary?" Theo asked. Priya explained patiently. Deep sleep is when the brain performs something called memory consolidation. It replays the events of the day, quietly, without your awareness, strengthening fragile, freshly learned information, transferring it from a temporary holding space into long-term, stable storage. This happens every night naturally, but it works far better with information that arrived calmly, without stress, wrapped inside something meaningful, like a story, rather than information crammed in anxiously through repetition and pressure. If new vocabulary is introduced gently just before this deep stage of sleep begins, layered softly beneath calming tones that encourage the body toward relaxation, the brain seems to treat that vocabulary differently. It becomes part of an experience rather than a task, and experiences are consolidated far more efficiently during deep, slow-wave sleep than isolated facts ever are. Theo asked, cautiously hopeful, "So if I just listen to something calm with a few new words inside it before I sleep, it actually helps?" Priya nodded. "It is not a shortcut around learning entirely," she said honestly, "but it removes one of the biggest obstacles, which is the exhausting friction of forced repetition." That night, Priya gave Theo a recording to try, a slow, calm story, layered beneath soft binaural tones, containing a handful of new and elegant words, folded gently into sentences describing a quiet harbor at night, boats resting still on dark water, lanterns glowing faintly along a wooden pier. He was told not to test himself, not to repeat anything aloud, simply to listen, the way one listens to distant waves at night, present but undemanding, requiring nothing at all. Theo lay in the darkness, and the slow, steady voice began, describing the harbor, using words like tranquil and steadfast and luminous, weaving them softly into the rhythm of the waves.
He did not strain to catch every word. He let the sentences drift past him, trusting the meaning to settle in on its own, the way understanding often arrives sideways, through feeling rather than force. Somewhere near the middle of the story, his thoughts loosened, slowed, and folded gently into sleep, long before the narration had finished. In the morning, something small but unmistakable happened. He was reading the newspaper, and the word steadfast appeared in the very first paragraph. He did not search his memory for its meaning. It was simply there, quiet and familiar, as though it had always belonged to him. He told Priya about this later that week, still slightly amazed by how effortless it had felt. She nodded, unsurprised. "This is the quiet magic of subconscious learning," she said. "Not magic in the impossible sense, but magic in the sense that it happens beneath your notice, without strain, without struggle." Over the following weeks, Theo continued the practice faithfully. Each evening, a new, calm story, layered beneath gentle, steady tones, introducing new vocabulary through soft, unhurried narrative, rather than isolated lists. He noticed, gradually, that these words stayed with him differently than anything he had studied before. They did not feel memorized, they felt known, the way a familiar path through a forest feels known, without conscious effort to recall each turn. Priya explained this difference one evening, her voice as slow and steady as her own recordings. "Language is not simply information," she said. "Language carries texture, sound, feeling, imagery. When a word is learned only as a flat definition, it stays lifeless, easy to lose. But when a word arrives inside a story, wrapped in sound and feeling, it becomes three-dimensional. It gains weight. It gains a home."
Theo thought of the word luminous and how he now pictured, without any effort at all, the glowing lanterns along the quiet wooden pier from the story. That image made the word feel permanent, anchored somewhere far deeper than memorization alone could ever reach. As the weeks passed, Theo noticed something changing beyond his vocabulary as well. He was falling asleep more easily and waking with a calmer, steadier mind, less scattered by the residue of anxious late-night study. The stories themselves were never rushed. They were deliberately slow, shaped not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding his thoughts from the sharp edges of the day into something rounder, softer, more restful. Priya shared one final thought before their conversation ended that evening. "There is a meaningful difference," she said, "between forcing knowledge into the mind and inviting it in gently. Forcing creates resistance, tension, friction. Invitation creates openness. When new words arrive through a slow, unhurried story, layered beneath calm sound, without demanding instant recall, the mind's doors tend to open more willingly, and what enters through an open door tends to remain far longer than what is pushed through one that has been forced shut." Theo carried this idea with him for years afterward, long after that particular autumn had quietly passed into winter. He began building his own calm recordings, weaving new vocabulary into quiet stories about harbors, forests, and slow evenings beneath open skies. He stopped believing his memory had a leak that could never be repaired. He understood, finally, that his memory had only ever needed a gentler invitation, a slower, calmer approach, layered beneath rest, instead of piled on top of exhaustion.
And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended quietly to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further still. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories the way gentle lantern light settles slowly across still, dark water. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to remember on purpose. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently into one another, the way distant lights blur softly when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open any longer. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy, conscious mind loosens its grip and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain, but through experience, not through memorization, but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way mist gathers slowly over still water at night, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed to happen. Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Theo and the quiet harbor at night and the steady, patient voice of Priya settle gently into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only slow breath, only the soft, continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now.
Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like a lantern left glowing softly along a path you walked the night before. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given.
Neuroscience of sleep learning. Absorb English without studying. Rest now. Let your body sink fully into the bed beneath you. Close your eyes gently, without effort. Tonight, I want to tell you a story. It is the story of a girl named Naomi and the strange, quiet night that taught her something no classroom ever had. You do not need to hold on to anything I say. You do not need to try. Just let the words drift over you slowly, like a soft current moving through still water. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your body grow heavier with every breath you take. Let your thoughts spread apart, wide and slow and far. Naomi had studied English for years, the way most students do, with textbooks, with grammar drills, with vocabulary lists copied carefully into the margins of her notebooks. She was diligent, she worked hard, and still, somehow, the language always felt just out of reach, like a shape glimpsed through frosted glass, close but never quite clear. She grew tired of studying, tired of forcing words into a mind that seemed to release them again almost as quickly as they entered. Then, one evening, during a school trip, she met a neuroscientist named Dr. Okafor, a calm, soft-spoken woman who studied how language settles inside a sleeping brain. Naomi told her everything: the exhaustion, the repetition, the sense that no matter how hard she studied, the language simply would not stay. Dr. Okafor listened carefully, and when Naomi finished, she said something unexpected. "You have been doing all of your learning while awake," she said, "during the hours when your brain is busiest, most distracted, least able to hold new information gently. But there is another window, quieter and far more receptive, that opens once your body settles into sleep." Naomi tilted her head, uncertain. "You mean I could learn English while I'm asleep?" Dr. Okafor smiled patiently. "Not entirely," she said. "Sleep alone cannot teach you a language from nothing, but sleep can do something study alone cannot. It can take what you gently expose your mind to before rest and weave it deeply, permanently into memory, without any of the strain that usually accompanies learning." She explained that as the brain descends into deeper stages of sleep, its electrical activity slows, moving from the fast, fragmented rhythm of waking thought into long, steady, rolling waves. This is sometimes called neural synchronization, a state in which different regions of the brain begin to communicate in a shared, unified rhythm. During certain stages of this deep, slow-wave sleep, Dr. Okafor continued, something remarkable takes place. The brain reactivates patterns encountered earlier, replaying them quietly beneath conscious awareness. This is called memory consolidation, the process by which fragile, short-term memories are gradually strengthened and transferred into stable, long-term storage. Naomi asked, "Then why haven't all my years of study consolidated properly?" Dr. Okafor nodded gently, as though she had expected this exact question many times before.
from many exhausted students just like her. Because, she said, consolidation favors what is absorbed calmly. Information learned through anxiety, through rushed repetition, through late-night pressure, becomes tangled together with stress, making it harder for the brain to sort and strengthen cleanly. But information absorbed gently, without testing, without urgency, wrapped inside something meaningful like a slow, unhurried story, is treated differently by the brain. It becomes part of an experience rather than a task. And experiences, Dr. Okafor said quietly, consolidate far more efficiently than isolated vocabulary lists ever could. Naomi sat with this thought for a long moment, the way one sits quietly with an idea too large to grasp all at once. Dr. Okafor explained further, describing how vocabulary acquisition strengthens when new words arrive embedded in meaningful, sensory-rich context, rather than presented in isolation. The brain does not simply store a word as a definition, she said. It stores a web, the sound of it, the feeling around it, the imagery it evokes, the sentence that carried it gently into your mind. The richer that web becomes, the easier the word can later be recalled. This is why a single word encountered inside a vivid, calm story is often remembered longer than that same word repeated 50 times on a flashcard. The story gives the word a home to live in. The flashcard gives it nothing but a bare, temporary shelf that empties quickly. That evening, Dr. Okafor suggested something simple to Naomi. Before sleep, she would listen to a slow, gentle story, spoken calmly, containing only a small number of new and elegant words, folded naturally into sentences describing quiet places, soft evening air, and slow, unhurried movement.
She was told not to test herself, not to repeat anything aloud, not to reach for the words with effort. Simply listen, the way one listens to leaves moving softly in a gentle wind, present but undemanding, requiring absolutely nothing at all. That first night, Naomi lay in the darkness, and a slow, steady voice began describing an old orchard at dusk, using words like abundant and graceful and unwavering, weaving them gently into sentences about heavy branches, falling light, and the quiet hum of evening insects. She did not strain to catch every word. She let the sentences move past her, trusting that meaning would settle in naturally, without force. Somewhere near the middle of the story, her thoughts loosened, slowed, and folded gently into sleep, long before the narration had finished. In the morning, something small but unmistakable happened. She opened her school reader, and the word unwavering appeared in the very first sentence. She did not search her memory for its meaning. It was simply there, quiet and familiar, as though it had always belonged to her. She told Dr. Okafor about this days later, still slightly amazed by how effortless it had felt, how unlike her years of exhausting study. Dr. Okafor nodded, unsurprised. "This is the quiet architecture of the sleeping brain," she said. "It has always been willing to help you. It simply needed information delivered in a way it could use." Over the following weeks, Naomi continued the practice faithfully, each evening a new, slow story carrying a handful of new words inside calm, unhurried sentences. She noticed gradually that these words stayed with her differently than anything she had studied before. They did not feel memorized, they felt known, the way a familiar melody feels known, without any conscious effort to recall its notes. Dr. Okafor explained this difference one evening, her voice as slow and steady as the recordings themselves. There are, broadly speaking, two systems of memory. One is effortful and deliberate, the kind used for cramming lists and isolated facts. It works, but it is fragile, easily disrupted by stress or fatigue. The other is contextual and experiential, built through story, feeling, and meaningful association. It is slower to form, but far more durable once it settles into place. Naomi thought of the word abundant and how she now pictured, without any effort at all, the heavy orchard branches from the story, golden light falling softly through the leaves. That image made the word feel permanent, rooted somewhere far deeper than memorization alone could ever reach. As the weeks passed, Naomi noticed something changing beyond her vocabulary as well. She was falling asleep more easily and waking with a calmer, steadier mind, less scattered by the residue of anxious late-night study. The stories themselves were never rushed. They were deliberately slow, shaped not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding her thoughts from the sharp edges of the school day into something rounder, softer, and far more restful.
Dr. Okafor shared one final thought before their conversation ended that evening. "There is a meaningful difference," she said, "between forcing information into the mind and inviting it in gently. Forcing creates resistance, tension, friction. Invitation creates openness. When new words arrive through a slow, unhurried story without demanding instant recall, the mind's doors tend to open more willingly. And what enters through an open door tends to remain far longer than what is pushed through one that has been forced shut." Naomi carried this idea with her for years afterward, long after that particular school trip had quietly ended. She began writing her own gentle stories, weaving new vocabulary into calm narratives about orchards, evenings, and slow walks beneath open skies. She stopped believing that English would always stay just out of reach, glimpsed only through frosted glass. She understood, finally, that her mind had only ever needed a gentler invitation, a slower, calmer approach, rather than the constant urgency she had once placed upon it night after exhausted night. And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended quietly to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further still. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories the way golden evening light settles slowly across a quiet orchard. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to remember on purpose. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently into one another, the way distant light blurs softly when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open any longer. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy, conscious mind loosens its grip and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain, but through experience, not through memorization, but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way dew gathers slowly over still grass at night, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed to happen.
Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Naomi and the quiet orchard at dusk and the steady, patient voice of Dr. Okafor settle gently into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only slow breath, only the soft, continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now. Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like ripe fruit resting gently on a branch you passed the night before. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given.
What if you could learn English while you sleep? Let your body settle now, heavy and still, into the softness beneath you. Close your eyes gently. What if the hardest part of learning a language was never the studying at all? What if it was the resting, the letting go, the quiet hours you have been rushing through every single night without noticing? Tonight, I want to tell you a story. It is the story of a man named Julian and the ordinary evening that changed how he understood his own mind. You do not need to hold on to anything. Just let the words drift over you slowly. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your body grow heavier with every breath. Julian had spent years chasing fluency the hard way. Early mornings with grammar books, long train rides spent repeating verb conjugations under his breath, evenings lost to vocabulary apps that buzzed at him relentlessly, demanding just 5 more minutes, just one more lesson. And still, despite all of it, conversations left him feeling one step behind, as though the language existed just beyond a wall of glass he could see through but never quite reach past. He grew tired, not of English itself, but of the exhausting effort required simply to hold on to it. Then, one night, sleepless and frustrated, he stumbled upon a lecture by a sleep researcher named Dr. Renner. Dr. Renner was explaining something Julian had never considered. What if, she said, near the beginning of her talk, the most productive hour of your language study was not spent awake at your desk, but lying quietly in the dark, doing nothing at all? Julian leaned closer to the screen, intrigued. She explained that the sleeping brain is not simply switched off. It moves through distinct stages, each with its own particular rhythm, its own quiet purpose. As a person sinks deeper into rest, brainwaves slow, spreading into long, wide, rolling patterns, entirely different from the fast, cluttered activity of a busy, waking mind. During certain of these deep stages, Dr. Renner continued, the brain performs something known as memory consolidation. It replays what it encountered earlier, quietly, invisibly, strengthening fragile, freshly learned information, moving it gently from short-term holding into long-term stable storage. Julian thought immediately of all the words he had studied and lost. Then why doesn't this happen for me? He wondered. As though she had heard the question through the screen itself, Dr. Renner continued, "This process favors information that arrives calmly. Information crammed in through stress and repetition becomes tangled with anxiety, harder for the brain to sort and strengthen. But information absorbed gently, through story, through unhurried listening, without testing, without pressure, is treated as an experience rather than a task, and experiences consolidate far more efficiently during deep sleep." Julian, still awake at nearly midnight, decided to try something almost as an experiment on himself. He found a slow, calm recording, a quiet story meant to be listened to right before sleep, containing a handful of new and elegant English words folded gently into its sentences. He was told in the introduction not to test himself, not to repeat anything aloud, simply to listen, the way one listens to rainfall outside a window, present but undemanding. He lay back, and a slow, steady voice began describing a quiet coastal town at night, using words like tranquil and deliberate and profound, weaving them softly into descriptions of empty streets and distant lighthouse beams sweeping gently across dark water.
He did not strain to catch each word. He let the sentences move past him, trusting the meaning to settle in on its own, the way understanding often arrives sideways, through feeling rather than force. Somewhere near the middle of the story, his thoughts loosened, slowed, and folded gently into sleep, long before the narration had finished. In the morning, something small but unmistakable happened. He was scrolling through a news article, and the word deliberate appeared in the very first paragraph. He did not search his memory for its meaning. It was simply there, quiet and familiar, as though it had always belonged to him. Curious now, almost skeptical of his own experience, Julian tried it again the next night, and the night after that. Each evening, a new, slow story, layered gently with a handful of new words, delivered calmly, without pressure, without testing. Weeks passed, and he began to notice something he had never experienced with flashcards or apps. These words did not feel memorized, they felt known, the way a familiar street feels known, without any conscious effort to recall its shape or its turns. He returned to Dr. Renner's research, eager now to understand exactly why this had worked so differently from everything he had tried before. He learned that language is not simply information stored as flat definitions. It carries texture, rhythm, emotion, imagery. When a word is learned only as an isolated fact, it remains lifeless, easy to lose. But when a word arrives inside a story, surrounded by feeling and sound, it becomes three-dimensional. It gains weight. It gains a home to live in. Julian thought of the word tranquil and how he now pictured, without any effort at all, the quiet coastal town from the story, lighthouse beams sweeping slowly across dark, still water. That image made the word feel permanent, anchored somewhere far deeper than any flashcard could ever reach. As the weeks continued, Julian noticed something changing beyond his vocabulary as well. He was falling asleep more easily and waking with a calmer, steadier mind, less scattered by the residue of anxious study sessions that had once bled late into the night.
The stories themselves were never rushed, they were deliberately slow, shaped not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding his thoughts from the sharp edges of the day into something rounder, softer, and far more restful. The vocabulary arrived almost as a quiet companion to this deeper calm, rather than as a demand placed upon an already tired mind. He wrote to Dr. Renner eventually, describing his experience, and she responded with something he never forgot. "There is a meaningful difference," she wrote, "between forcing knowledge into the mind and inviting it in gently. Forcing creates resistance, tension, friction. Invitation creates openness. When new words arrive through a slow, unhurried story without demanding instant recall, the mind's doors tend to open more willingly, and what enters through an open door tends to remain far longer than what is pushed through one that has been forced shut." Julian read those words several times, sitting quietly with them, the way one sits with something unexpectedly true. He began building his own quiet routine, choosing a calm story each evening, sometimes writing his own, weaving new vocabulary into slow narratives about coastal towns, quiet libraries, and evenings beneath open windows. He stopped believing that fluency required constant, exhausting effort. He understood, finally, that his mind had only ever needed a gentler invitation, a slower, calmer approach, rather than the relentless urgency he had once placed upon it, night after restless night. And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended quietly to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further still. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories the way distant lighthouse beams settle slowly across still, dark water. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to remember on purpose. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently into one another, the way distant lights blur softly when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open any longer. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy conscious mind loosens its grip, and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain, but through experience, not through memorization, but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way fog gathers slowly over a harbor at night, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed to happen. Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Julian and the quiet coastal town at night and the slow, patient words of Dr. Renner settle gently into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only slow breath, only the soft, continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now.
Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like a lighthouse beam still glowing softly somewhere at the edge of memory. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given.
The night your brain learned without you trying. Let your body settle now, heavy and still, into the softness beneath you. Close your eyes gently, without effort. There was a night once when a young woman named Selin stopped trying, not trying to learn, not trying to remember, not trying at all. And that was the night everything changed. Tonight, I want to tell you her story. You do not need to hold on to anything I say. Just let the words drift over you slowly, like a warm current moving through still water. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your body grow heavier with every breath you take. Let your thoughts spread apart, wide and slow and far. Selin had always been the kind of student who tried too hard. Late nights bent over vocabulary lists, alarms set for early mornings, just to fit in one more review session before school. She believed, the way many hard-working students do, that struggle was proof of progress, that if learning did not hurt a little, it probably wasn't working. And yet, despite all her effort, English still slipped through her fingers more often than it stayed. She grew exhausted, not from lack of discipline, but from the sheer, relentless weight of trying so hard, all the time without rest. One evening, after a particularly draining week of exams, Selin simply gave up, not on English entirely, but on the effort of it, just for one night. She climbed into bed early, too tired even to open her notebook, and instead, almost by accident, she pressed play on a slow, calm audio story a classmate had once mentioned, something meant simply for relaxing before sleep. She was not trying to learn, she was only trying to rest. And that distinction, though she did not realize it yet, would turn out to matter more than anything she had done all year. The recording began gently, a soft, unhurried voice describing a quiet mountain cabin at dusk, smoke rising slowly from a chimney, snow settling silently outside frosted windows. The story used a handful of unfamiliar words, words like serene and resolute and meticulous, but Selin did not pause to look any of them up. She did not repeat them. She simply let the sentences flow past her, the way one lets a river flow past without trying to hold on to the water itself. Her thoughts, worn out from a long week, loosened easily. Somewhere in the middle of the story, she fell asleep, without noticing exactly when it happened. The next morning, something strange occurred. She was reading a passage for class, and the word resolute appeared on the page. She expected to feel the familiar blankness, the frustrating gap where a word's meaning should be, but instead the meaning was simply there, quiet and complete, as though it had always belonged to her. She blinked at the page, confused. She had not studied that word. She had not repeated it. She had barely even noticed it the night before, and yet, somehow, it had settled into her mind while she slept, without any effort on her part at all. Curious now, she mentioned this to her older cousin, a graduate student studying cognitive science, who explained something Selin had never learned in any classroom. Your brain, her cousin said, does not require conscious effort to absorb information. In fact, effort can sometimes get in the way. Deep within sleep, particularly during certain slow restorative stages, the brain naturally reactivates and strengthens whatever it encountered earlier, especially information absorbed calmly without pressure or anxiety. Selin frowned, trying to understand. So resting actually helped more than studying would have. Her cousin nodded. When you study anxiously, cramming, testing yourself, racing against a clock, your brain stores that information tangled together with stress. It becomes harder to retrieve later because the stress itself interferes with clean, stable memory formation. But when information arrives gently, through story, through calm and unhurried listening, without any demand for immediate recall, your brain treats it completely differently. It becomes part of an experience rather than a task, and experiences consolidate far more efficiently during deep restorative sleep than isolated facts ever do. Selin thought about this carefully, turning the idea over slowly in her mind. She decided to try it again the following night, this time deliberately, though still without effort. A new, slow story, different words this time, folded gently into calm, unhurried sentences about a quiet lakeside village, boats resting still on dark water, lantern light glowing softly along a wooden dock. She listened the way she had before, present but undemanding, letting the words move through her without grasping at any of them. Once again, she drifted into sleep before the story had even finished, and once again, in the morning, new words simply appeared where they were needed, quiet and familiar, already at home in her mind. Over the following weeks, Selin continued this new, effortless routine. Each evening a different calm story, carrying a small handful of new vocabulary inside slow, unhurried sentences. She stopped opening her old notebooks in a panic before bed. She stopped setting alarms for pre-dawn review sessions. Instead, she simply rested and let her sleeping mind quietly do work she had once believed only her exhausted waking mind could do. Her cousin explained the deeper reason for this one afternoon, sitting together over tea. There are two systems of memory, she said. One effortful, deliberate, easily disrupted by stress. The other contextual, built through story and feeling, slower to form but far more durable once it takes hold. When you stopped trying so hard, her cousin continued, you were not doing nothing. You were simply switching from the fragile system to the durable one. Selin thought of the word serene and how she now pictured, without any effort at all, the quiet mountain cabin from that very first night, smoke rising slowly into a darkening sky. That image made the word feel permanent, rooted somewhere far deeper than any amount of forced repetition could ever reach. As the weeks passed, Celine noticed something changing beyond her vocabulary as well. She was falling asleep more easily, waking calmer, less anxious, no longer carrying the constant low hum of academic pressure into every evening. The stories themselves were never rushed. They were deliberately slow, shaped not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding her thoughts from the sharp, tense edges of exam season into something rounder, softer, and far more restful. The vocabulary arrived almost as a quiet companion to this deeper calm, rather than as the primary demand placed upon an already exhausted mind. Her cousin shared one final thought before their conversation ended that afternoon. "There is a meaningful difference," she said, "between forcing knowledge into the mind and inviting it in gently. Forcing creates resistance, invitation creates openness. When new words arrive through a slow, unhurried story without demanding instant recall, the mind's doors tend to open more willingly, and what enters through an open door tends to remain far longer than what is pushed through one that has been forced shut." Celine carried this idea with her for years afterward, long after that particular exam season had quietly ended. She began building her own calm bedtime routine, choosing gentle stories, sometimes writing her own, weaving new vocabulary into quiet narratives about cabins, lakesides, and slow evenings beneath open skies. She stopped believing that learning required constant struggle. She understood, finally, that her mind had only ever needed permission to rest, a gentler invitation, a slower approach, rather than the relentless urgency she had once placed upon it, night after exhausted night. And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended quietly to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further still. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories the way lantern light settles slowly across a still, dark lake. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to remember on purpose. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently into one another, the way distant lights blur softly when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open any longer. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy, conscious mind loosens its grip and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain, but through experience, not through memorization, but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way frost gathers slowly across a window overnight, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed to happen. Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Celine and the quiet mountain cabin at dusk and the lakeside village glowing softly with lantern light settle gently into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only slow breath, only the soft continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now.
Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like a lantern still glowing softly somewhere at the edge of memory, exactly where you left it the night before. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given.
Fall asleep tonight and wake up with new words tomorrow. Let your body settle now, heavy and still, into the softness beneath you. Close your eyes gently, without effort. Tonight, you are not here to study, you are simply here to rest. But somewhere inside that rest, something quiet and remarkable will happen anyway. I want to tell you a story tonight, the story of a man named Kavi and the ordinary night that taught him something extraordinary about sleep. You do not need to hold on to anything. Just let the words drift over you slowly, like warm water moving gently over smooth stones. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your body grow heavier with every breath you take. Kavi was a night shift nurse, and for years, sleep had felt like a luxury he rarely had time for, let alone the luxury of learning something new while resting. His schedule left him exhausted, falling into bed at odd hours, waking disoriented, barely functional. Learning English, something he had wanted to do for years, always felt impossible, squeezed between shifts, forgotten by fatigue before it could ever properly take root. He had tried studying during his short breaks, but exhaustion made everything blur together, words entering one moment and disappearing the next, as though his tired mind simply had no room left to keep them. One quiet morning, after a long night shift, a colleague mentioned something Kavi had never considered, a technique she called simply falling asleep with intention. She explained that instead of forcing herself to study before bed, exhausted and irritable, she had started listening to slow, calm stories instead, stories gently containing new vocabulary, designed specifically to be heard right as she drifted toward sleep. "You're not trying to learn," she told him. "You're just listening, the way you'd listen to rain, and somehow, in the morning, some of it just stays." Kavi was skeptical, but desperate enough to try anything. That evening, after his shift ended, exhausted in the pale early morning light, he lay down and pressed play on a slow, unhurried recording. A calm voice began describing a quiet train station at night, empty platforms, distant lights reflecting softly on wet stone, using words like solitary and deliberate and unwavering, woven gently into the description. He did not try to catch every word, he simply let the sentences drift past him, the way exhaustion allows thoughts to drift without resistance. Within minutes, he had fallen asleep, the story still quietly playing somewhere in the background of his fading awareness. He woke later that afternoon, and while eating breakfast, scrolling absently through a news article, the word unwavering appeared in the very first paragraph. He paused, surprised. He knew the word immediately, its meaning simply present, quiet and complete, as though it had always belonged to him.
He had not studied it, he had barely even noticed it consciously the night before, and yet here it was, sitting comfortably inside his mind, as familiar as an old habit. He thought of his colleague's words. Somehow, in the morning, some of it just stays. Curious now, he researched the phenomenon during his next few days off and found himself reading about something called memory consolidation, a natural process occurring during deep, slow-wave sleep, in which the brain quietly reactivates and strengthens information encountered earlier, transferring it gradually from short-term, fragile storage into long-term, stable memory. He learned that this process favors information absorbed calmly. Anxious, forced repetition tangles new information together with stress, making it harder for the brain to sort cleanly. But information absorbed gently, without pressure, wrapped inside something meaningful, like a slow story, becomes part of an experience rather than a task, and experiences consolidate far more efficiently during deep, restorative sleep. Kavi began adjusting his exhausting, chaotic routine. Instead of trying and failing to study during scattered breaks, he simply chose one calm story each evening before sleep, whenever that evening happened to fall, given his irregular hours. Sometimes it was actual nighttime, sometimes it was mid-morning after a long shift. It did not seem to matter. What mattered was the calm, unhurried quality of the listening itself, the absence of pressure, the permission simply to rest while new words settled quietly around him.
Each story introduced only a handful of new words, folded naturally into slow, vivid sentences about quiet places, distant journeys, and unhurried evenings. He never tested himself afterward. He never repeated the words aloud. He simply allowed sleep to do whatever quiet work it already knew how to do. Weeks passed, and Kavi noticed something remarkable. Words began appearing in his patient's charts, in overheard conversations, in the instructions from visiting doctors, and increasingly he simply understood them, without the familiar frustration of searching blankly for meaning. He mentioned this to his colleague one tired morning, still amazed by how effortless it had felt compared to years of exhausting, unsuccessful study. She smiled, unsurprised. "Language is not just information," she said. "It carries texture, feeling, imagery. When you learn a word only as a flat definition, it stays lifeless, forgettable. But when a word arrives inside a story, surrounded by emotion and sound, it becomes three-dimensional. It gains weight. It gains somewhere to live." Kavi thought of the word solitary, and how he now pictured, without any effort at all, the quiet train station from that very first story, empty platforms glowing softly beneath distant lights. That image made the word feel permanent, anchored somewhere far deeper than any flashcard could ever reach. As the weeks continued, Kavi noticed something changing beyond his vocabulary as well. Despite his demanding, irregular schedule, he found himself falling asleep more easily, waking with a calmer, steadier mind, less scattered by the chronic fatigue that had once followed him through every shift. The stories themselves were never rushed. They were deliberately slow, shaped not to excite the mind, but to lower it gently, guiding his exhausted thoughts into something rounder, softer, and far more restful, regardless of what hour of the day it happened to be. His colleague shared one final thought with him during a quiet moment between shifts.
There is a meaningful difference, she said, between forcing knowledge into an already tired mind and inviting it in gently instead. Forcing creates resistance, and resistance, especially in an exhausted mind, simply collapses. But invitation creates openness, even in fatigue. When new words arrive through a slow, unhurried story, without demanding instant recall, the mind's doors tend to open more willingly, even when everything else feels closed. Kavi carried this idea with him for years afterward, long after that particular difficult season of his life had passed. He began building his own quiet nightly routine, regardless of what hour his shifts ended, choosing calm stories, sometimes writing his own, weaving new vocabulary into slow narratives about train stations, quiet streets, and unhurried journeys beneath open skies. He stopped believing that exhaustion meant learning was impossible. He understood, finally, that his mind had only ever needed a gentler invitation, one that did not require energy he simply did not have. And now, tonight, this same gentle invitation is being extended quietly to you. As you continue to rest here in the darkness, let your thoughts loosen further still. Let each sentence settle without effort, without testing, without any need to hold tightly onto anything at all. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your mind, taking their place among your memories, the way soft platform light settles slowly across wet stone at night. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nothing you need to remember on purpose. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow your breathing to slow further. Allow your body to grow heavier against the bed beneath you. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently into one another, the way distant lights blur softly when your eyes finally grow too tired to stay open any longer. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there exists a quiet threshold, a soft doorway where the busy, conscious mind loosens its grip and a deeper, steadier layer of awareness begins its own slow, patient work. It is in this space that language settles most naturally, not through strain, but through experience, not through memorization, but through memory quietly forming on its own, the way mist gathers slowly over a quiet platform at night, unnoticed, unforced, simply allowed to happen. Let yourself sink further into that space now. Let the story of Kavi and the quiet train station at night and the gentle words of his colleague settle softly into the still water of your own mind. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to remember on purpose. Simply there is rest, only slow breath, only the soft, continuing hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly, steadily, all the way down. Sleep now. Let the story continue quietly on its own, far beneath your awareness, in that patient inner workshop where the mind sorts, strengthens, and gently keeps what matters most. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be waiting for you, quiet and familiar, like a light still glowing softly on an empty platform, exactly where you left it the night before. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the still water hold everything it has been softly given.
The secret language hack hidden in your sleep cycle. Let your eyes close now. Let your body settle into the mattress, heavy and warm. Tonight, I want to tell you about a hack, a hidden shortcut, something buried deep inside your own sleep cycle something most people never discover because they are too busy fighting their own mind instead of listening to it. This is the story of a man named Daniel, and the night he finally understood why nothing he studied ever seemed to stay with him. As you listen, do not try to hold on to anything. Do not repeat words in your head. Simply let your breathing slow, let your jaw loosen, let your thoughts grow soft and slow like melting wax. Daniel had spent years chasing fluency the hard way. He owned 3 thick vocabulary books, each one filled with pages of underlined words, circled definitions, small notes crammed into the margins. Every night, he sat at his desk under a bright lamp, repeating word after word until his eyes ached and his mind felt like a stretched rubber band ready to snap. And yet, morning after morning, he woke up and the words were gone, as if the night itself had quietly erased them while he slept. He began to wonder if his brain was simply broken, incapable of holding language the way other people's brains could. One evening, exhausted and frustrated, he fell asleep at his desk, his head resting on an open notebook. He dreamed of nothing memorable, but he woke at 3 in the morning, disoriented, the room dark and silent around him. And in that strange, half-awake haze, a thought arrived, clear and simple, as if someone had whispered it directly into his mind. What if the problem was not effort, but timing? What if he had been trying to plant seeds in the wrong season, forcing growth during the driest, hardest part of the day, while ignoring the one season when the soil was naturally soft? The next day, Daniel visited an old professor he had once studied under, a quiet man who had spent decades researching how the brain processes information during different stages of rest. Daniel explained his frustration, the hours of study, the vanishing words, the sense that his memory simply refused to cooperate. The professor listened patiently, then asked a single question. "Daniel, when do you study?" Daniel answered immediately, "In the evening, right before bed, sometimes very late when I am already tired." The professor nodded slowly, as if this answer confirmed something he already suspected. "You are close," the professor said, "closer than you realize, but you are missing one essential piece. You study right before sleep, which is good, but you study the wrong way. You are forcing information in, gripping it tightly, treating it like a test you must pass before you are allowed to rest. This creates tension, and tension blocks the very process you are trying to activate." Daniel frowned, confused. "What process?" he asked. The professor leaned back in his chair and began to explain, slowly, the way a person explains something they have spent a lifetime studying. "There is a hidden mechanism inside your sleep cycle," he said. "Throughout the night, your brain moves through different stages, some light, some deep, some filled with vivid dreaming. During certain stages, particularly in the earlier cycles of the night, the brain engages in something researchers describe as memory consolidation. This is the quiet process where fragile, newly learned information is strengthened, transferred, and woven into your long-term memory. It is not something you do on purpose. It happens automatically, but only if the information was absorbed in the right way beforehand." Daniel asked the obvious question, "What is the right way?" The professor smiled. "Calm," he said simply. "Calm absorption rather than forced memorization. When you cram information under stress, your brain tags it as effortful and urgent, which sounds helpful, but it actually creates resistance during the consolidation process. Stress hormones interfere with the delicate rhythm your brain needs during those early sleep stages.
But when new language is absorbed slowly, gently, through story, through calm narration, without pressure or testing, your brain treats it completely differently. It becomes raw material that the sleeping brain can work with, easily, smoothly, almost effortlessly. The professor continued, describing something he called the golden window, the short period of time right before sleep and during the lightest early stages of the sleep cycle, when the mind is unusually receptive, like damp clay ready to be shaped. In this window, he explained, loud, effortful study is like trying to carve fine details into wet clay with a heavy hammer. It destroys more than it creates. But a slow, quiet story, delivered with a calm and steady voice, is like using a soft brush instead, gently pressing shapes into the clay without breaking it apart. Daniel thought about his years of late-night cramming, the tension in his shoulders, the way he used to test himself again and again before finally collapsing into bed, exhausted and anxious. Perhaps all of that tension had been quietly working against him the entire time. The professor suggested something new. That night, instead of opening his thick vocabulary book, Daniel should simply listen. A calm voice, a slow story, filled naturally with a handful of elegant words, layered gently beneath soft, steady sound, guiding his mind toward the golden window rather than fighting against it.
That evening, Daniel tried it. He lay in the darkness, and a quiet voice began describing a hidden valley. Use words like elusive and intricate and profound, weaving them naturally into sentences about narrow paths winding between ancient trees and soft mist settling over quiet rivers at dusk. He did not force himself to understand every detail immediately. He simply let the story flow around him, the meaning arriving sideways, through feeling, through rhythm, rather than through direct translation. Somewhere near the middle of the story, his thoughts became looser, rounder, less like sharp sentences and more like slow-moving clouds. He drifted into sleep before the story even finished, and for the first time in months, he did not dream about tests or deadlines. He simply slept, deep and undisturbed. In the morning, he sat down with his coffee, and without even trying, the word elusive appeared in his thoughts, fully formed, attached not to a dry definition, but to the exact image of mist drifting across a quiet river. He stared at his coffee cup for a long moment, almost disbelieving. The word had simply been there, waiting quietly, as if it had always belonged to him. Daniel returned to the professor a few days later, describing this strange, effortless recall. The professor was not surprised. "This is the hidden hack," he said, "not a shortcut around effort, but a redirection of effort. You are simply working with your sleep cycle instead of against it. Most people study hardest exactly when their brain is least ready to absorb calmly, late at night, under stress, right before forcing themselves into unconsciousness. But if you shift that effort into calm, story-based listening, timed just before sleep, you allow your natural biological process to do the heavy lifting for you." Over the following weeks, Daniel refined this new evening ritual. Each night before sleep, he listened to a slow, calm story, always different, always centered around some quiet scene, a forest, a shoreline, an old library filled with soft lamplight, always containing a handful of new, elegant words woven naturally into the narrative. He stopped testing himself. He stopped repeating anything out loud. He simply allowed the words to arrive, the way rain arrives, softly, without asking permission, settling quietly into whatever ground is prepared to receive it.
His vocabulary grew steadily, but more importantly, his relationship with learning itself began to change. Language no longer felt like an enemy he had to defeat before bed. It felt like a companion, arriving gently each evening, sitting quietly beside him as he drifted toward sleep. He noticed something else, too. He was falling asleep faster, waking more rested, his mind clearer throughout the day. The golden window, once wasted on stress and repetition, was now being used exactly as his sleep cycle intended, calm, receptive, and quietly productive.
One evening, the professor explained a deeper layer of this hidden hack. There is a rhythm inside every sleep cycle, he said, a natural rise and fall between lighter and deeper stages, repeating several times throughout the night. Some researchers have explored whether gentle, layered sound patterns, calm frequencies woven softly beneath a steady voice, might help guide the mind more smoothly into these deeper stages, encouraging a kind of internal synchronization. This is not about forcing anything. It is about creating the right conditions, the right atmosphere, so your own natural biology can do what it already knows how to do. Daniel began to understand the deeper meaning behind this hack. It was never really about tricking the brain. It was about cooperating with something that had always been there, a natural rhythm, ignored for years beneath layers of stress and forced repetition. The secret was never hidden very far away. It was hidden in plain sight, inside the ordinary hours between closing his eyes and drifting into dreams, a window he had spent years slamming shut with anxiety, without ever realizing it could simply be opened gently instead. As months passed, Daniel's fluency grew in a way that felt strangely effortless compared to his earlier years of struggle. Words no longer felt like separate, isolated facts he had to memorize one by one. They felt woven together, connected through story, through feeling, through the calm evening scenes that had carried them gently into his memory. He began creating his own quiet bedtime stories, folding new vocabulary into slow, simple narratives about rivers, valleys, and quiet forests, using the very hack the old professor had shown him. And now, tonight, this same hidden hack is being offered to you. As you continue resting here in the darkness, allow your thoughts to loosen completely. Let the sentences you hear settle gently, without effort, without testing, without any need to grasp or repeat anything. The words arriving in this story are simply quiet guests, stepping softly into the wide, calm rooms of your sleeping mind, finding their place naturally, the way soft rain settles into waiting soil. There is nothing you need to do right now except breathe, slowly and evenly, letting your body grow heavier against the bed with every exhale. There is no need to check yourself in the morning, no need to prove anything to yourself. Simply allow the story to continue on its own. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently together, the way distant streetlights blur softly when your eyes grow heavy at the end of a long day. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there is a quiet threshold, the very same golden window Daniel once discovered by accident.
It is a soft doorway where your conscious effort finally releases its grip and your deeper, steadier mind quietly begins its own careful work, sorting, strengthening, weaving new language gently into the fabric of what you already know, without any struggle at all. Let yourself drift into that space now. Let the story of Daniel and the misty valley and the quiet old professor and the golden window hidden inside every single night settle softly into your own sleeping mind. There is nothing to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only breath, only the slow, steady hum of calm words moving gently through the darkness, sinking evenly all the way down into the quiet places where memory quietly takes root. Sleep now. Let the hidden hack do its patient work, far beneath your awareness, exactly as it has always been designed to do. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be there already, waiting quietly for you, the way morning light waits patiently behind a closed curtain. Rest deeply, sleep completely, and let your sleep cycle finally do what it was always capable of doing.
Exactly, she said, and over time, without any struggle, without any pushing, it would eventually sink evenly all the way to the bottom, becoming part of the lake itself. This is how deep learning works too, especially at night, especially in the quiet hours before sleep. She explained that in the late evening, right before rest, and again during certain deep stages throughout the night, the mind becomes like this still lake, calm, settled, no longer disturbed by the busy winds of the day. During these quiet hours, researchers who study the sleeping brain describe a process called memory consolidation, where information gently absorbed earlier is strengthened and woven into long-term memory. But, she warned, if you throw information in like a stone, hard and fast and forced, the water becomes disturbed, ripples spread out, colliding with each other, and nothing settles clearly. This is what happens when you cram before sleep, testing yourself harshly, repeating words with anxious urgency. You disturb your own lake before it has a chance to become still. Matteo asked, "Then how should I learn, if not by trying hard?" His grandmother smiled the way she always did when she was about to share something important. Not by trying hard, but by trying gently, like a leaf settling on calm water. That night, she suggested something new. Instead of repeating vocabulary lists in his head, Matteo should simply listen to a calm story before sleep, one containing a few new and beautiful words, delivered slowly, without pressure, without any need to prove he understood everything right away. She said the meaning would settle naturally, sideways, the way understanding often arrives when we stop demanding it directly. That evening, Matteo lay in his small bed near the open window, the sound of crickets faint in the background, and listened as his grandmother told a story using words like serene and boundless and gentle sentences describing the lake at dusk, the mountains fading into soft blue shadow. He did not force himself to translate every word immediately. He simply let the story flow over him, the meaning arriving gradually, the way moonlight gradually fills a dark room.
Somewhere near the middle of the story, his thoughts became loose and slow, drifting like small clouds across a wide summer sky. He fell asleep before the story even ended, and for the first time in weeks he did not dream about tests or grades. He simply rested, deep and undisturbed, like the lake outside his window. In the morning, sitting at breakfast, Matteo found himself thinking the word serene without any effort at all. It arrived quietly, attached not to a definition, but to the exact image of the lake glowing orange under the setting sun. He stared at his spoon for a moment, surprised. The word had simply been there, waiting patiently, as if it had always belonged to him. He ran to tell his grandmother, and she only nodded calmly, as though she had expected exactly this. The lake remembers what is given to it gently. Your mind is the same. Over the following weeks, this became their evening ritual. Each night before sleep, Matteo would sit quietly while his grandmother told a slow, calm story, always centered around the lake or the mountains or the quiet forest paths nearby, always containing a handful of new, gentle words folded naturally into the sentences. He stopped testing himself harshly. He stopped repeating words with anxious urgency. He simply allowed the language to arrive the way evening light arrives, softly, without demand, settling wherever it was welcomed.
His vocabulary grew steadily, but something deeper changed as well. Learning no longer felt like a battle he had to win before exhaustion took over. It felt like an evening walk beside calm water, unhurried, peaceful, quietly rewarding. He noticed he was falling asleep faster too, his mind less cluttered, his thoughts less anxious throughout the day. The lake outside his window seemed to reflect something now happening inside his own mind. A growing stillness, a growing patience, a quiet willingness to let things settle rather than forcing them to arrive all at once. One evening, his grandmother explained a deeper layer of the lesson. "There is a rhythm to stillness," she said. "The lake does not become calm all at once. It moves gradually through smaller and smaller ripples until finally there is no movement at all, only smooth reflection. Your mind moves through a similar rhythm each night, rising and falling gently between lighter and deeper stages of rest, again and again throughout the darkness. Some people believe that soft, layered sounds, calm and steady, woven quietly beneath a gentle voice, can help guide this rhythm, encouraging the mind to settle more smoothly into its natural, restorative depths. Matteo began to understand that this was never really about forcing sleep to teach him something new. It was about cooperating with something his mind had always known how to do naturally, an ancient rhythm, patient and unhurried, present in every human being long before school, long before vocabulary lists, long before anxious testing replaced quiet trust. The still lake was never only outside his window. It had always existed within him too, waiting patiently to be noticed. As the months passed, Matteo's fluency grew in a way that felt strangely effortless compared to his earlier years of struggle. Words no longer felt like isolated stones he had to carry one by one. They felt woven together, connected through story, through feeling, through the calm evening scenes his grandmother had shared with him beside the water. Eventually, he began creating his own quiet stories, using new words he encountered during the day, folding them gently into simple narratives about mountains, forests, and the still lake that had taught him everything. And now, tonight, this same still water is being offered to you. As you continue resting here in the darkness, allow your thoughts to loosen completely, the way small ripples loosen and fade across calm water. Let the sentences you hear settle gently, without effort, without any need to hold on to them tightly. The words arriving in this story are simply soft leaves drifting quietly onto the surface of your own resting mind, settling wherever they are welcomed, sinking slowly, evenly, becoming part of you. There is nothing you need to do right now except breathe, slowly and evenly, letting your body grow heavier with every exhale, the way stones grow heavier as they sink beneath calm water. There is no need to check yourself in the morning, no need to prove anything. Simply allow this story to continue quietly. Allow the edges of your thoughts to blur gently together, the way reflections blur softly across water as evening deepens into night. Somewhere between waking and sleeping, there is a quiet threshold, a still and patient lake hidden inside every mind. It is here that language settles most naturally, not through struggle, but through trust, not through force, but through gentle patience. It is here that new words quietly become part of you, the way leaves become part of the lake that holds them. Let yourself drift into that stillness now. Let the story of Matteo and his grandmother and the calm lake beneath the mountains settle softly into the quiet water of your own resting mind. There is nothing to remember on purpose. There is only rest, only breath, only the slow, steady hum of gentle words moving through the darkness, sinking evenly all the way down into the quiet places where memory quietly takes root. Sleep now. Let the still lake do its patient work far beneath your awareness, exactly as it has always known how to do. Tomorrow, some of these words may simply be there already, waiting quietly for you, the way morning light waits patiently above still water. Rest deeply, sleep completely, and let your own quiet lake finally settle all the way until morning.